Hello everyone and welcome to Retro Dad and Modern Lad, the YouTube channel and soon to be website. I'm very excited to be the first person to do an in-depth look at the unreleased Sega Saturn game Star Wars Rebel Strike, codenamed Spike. The game was discovered in 2019 with a post by a community member over at obscuregamers.com called Error, showing pictures and video footage on his YouTube channel called Unboxing Retro. The very early demo build features one level which has a large area to play, but there are only enemies in the first half of the level and there doesn't appear to be a way to complete the level either. The demo also has no music or sound effects unfortunately, so I'll be playing some background music from Panzer Dragoon. In today's video I'm going to show the level available, talk about the gameplay and controls before moving on to 5 things you should try when playing the demo. As always, I've been putting the unreleased demo through its paces and found some very unique things no one else has noticed, so stay tuned for that. The game plays similar to Panzer Dragoon and Solar Eclipse, only you have free movement of the craft. The level design reminds me of Panzer Dragoon Saga in relation to some areas are narrow and guide you along, but further into the level it opens up to a more open world style gameplay. The game also does a good job, even at this early stage, of obscuring the draw distance by using a combination of background layer and a black shadow over objects until they're close proximity in the distance. So let's go through the game controls, weapons and radar map available in the top right of the screen. On the radar and map you can see enemies as white and yellow dots, as well as the shape of the area you're in. You are represented yourself on the map as a red dot. In the top left hand corner of the screen is your weapons. You can use the A button to scroll through them and the B button is to fire. The top weapon is a standard missile which fires directly in front of you. Next down is a homing missile for locking on targets. Next is the flamethrower, followed by the machine gun. The next weapon is a sonic boom that kills all enemies in a circumference around you and also flattens trees. The last weapon you can select from this area is a grenade that can be dropped by pressing B or thrown by holding B. All these weapons have a limited ammo, but when you kill enemies or destroy buildings you can collect more. The C button can be tapped to hover or held to jump up high. The X button changes the camera view from third person close to first person and also third person long range. The Y button fires a laser with unlimited ammo. The Z button allows you to transform from speed bike to mech machine. As the mech you can still use all your weapons and change the camera view, but you can't jump and it's slower at moving. The L shoulder button is used to lean sharp left, while the R shoulder button is used to lean sharp right. This can come in handy for turning and avoiding objects at high speed. The start button is used to pause the game, but interestingly, when pausing only the assets on the terrain level are visible. Your character graphics disappear, the enemies vanish, as do the bunkers and small trees. The big tree trunks remain as they are part of the terrain, but the leaves that are on them trees disappear. Anyone who's been watching my channel a while will know I'm a big fan of unreleased games and I like to find things that no one else has ever seen. So without further ado, let's look at the top 5 things I recommend you do and try, which I have discovered for the Star Wars Rebel Strike Unreleased Sega Saturn demo. Number 5. Static camera trick. I actually came across this when testing if the game had reset if I held all the buttons on the Saturn controller, which works on most games. It doesn't reset, but it freezes the camera. But you can still move the character. To get it to work, you don't actually need to press all the buttons. I've got it down to if you hold A, B, C and X and then let go, it works. You can move away from the camera and also out of view. This allows for some spectacular model shots, and you can also transform from the mech and the speed bike, as well as using your weapons when using this trick. You can perform this at any time while playing the demo, and to revert back to the camera following you, just press the same buttons and hold for a second again. A, B, C, X. Another interesting feature when using this trick is you can actually continue the level without the camera by using the map radar in the top right of the screen to track your progress and navigate your way through the level. I also attempted to kill enemies by just using the radar using this trick, but that didn't seem to work. It could be that I just wasn't accurate enough when shooting though. Number 4. Visual effects using a second controller. If you plug in a second Sega Saturn controller you can do some weird and wonderful visual effects. On controller 2 press and hold the A button to zoom in and press and hold the X button to zoom out. This can give effects which make it appear like a speed player when moving. Also try pressing A, B, C, X on controller 1 to perform the static camera trick. Then on controller 2 tap A, you've now got a top down view and you can use controller 1 D-pad to move your character. Or you can press A and X to zoom in and out using controller 2. You can also use the D-pad on controller 2 to do a top down flyover of the level, or tap the A button and do a first person fly through the level using the D-pad on controller 2. If you tap the A button on controller 2 again and then hold the A button, you will zoom away from the level, taking you out into outer space orbit. This gives some really good graphical effects and colours, but beware, it can also crash the game sometimes. Number 3, Up in Flames. If you use the flamethrower, you'll notice that you can make the enemy's bunker and small trees catch fire, which looks visually impressive. But another trick I've found is you can also make your character catch fire. Now this may take a few goes, as you need to set an enemy on fire first and bump into them. The only problem with this is when the enemy catches fire, you'll notice that they start to frantically run round, as you probably would if you caught fire. So you need to get very close before setting them on fire and bump into them. Once you have done this, your character will catch fire. Now I've done this quite a few times and I've noticed that depending on where you bump into them, you can catch fire in different places, and sometimes you'll catch fire in multiple places to give really good effects. Like this time I've got 2 flames on me. The flames will flow in the wind as you move around, and you don't need to worry about taking damage as you have unlimited health and can't die on the demo. To extinguish the flames, just fire your flamethrower and it will go out in a puff of smoke. Number 2, Other Modes. When you boot the demo up, you're given a menu screen with additional modes including Spike Model Viewer, BG Test Stuff, Scott's Test Stuff and Joystick Configuration. The model viewer is exactly as it sounds. You can view the in-game models including the bike, trooper, probe, gun tower, bunker and bunker top and walker. If you plug in a second Sega Saturn controller, you can also test the lighting effects on each model by using the buttons shown at the bottom. Press the A for light, B for light on off, and X, Y and Z will rotate the colours around the model. If you press the start button on controller 1, you can zoom in and also rotate the models around. The use of this mode and the static camera trick really show off the detail of the models, which are of a good standard for the Sega Saturn. The next option on the menu is the BG Test Stuff. Controller 2 doesn't appear to do anything in this mode. If you press the D-pad up or down, the writing scrolls. If you press left or right, the camera spins, and if you hold A, B or C, the colour of the writing changes. To return to the title screen, press start. The next mode is Scott's Test Stuff, and you have an area you can fly around and test in. In this mode you can turn the camera with the left and right on the D-pad, and also move forwards and backwards with up and down on the D-pad. To gain height you hold X, and to decrease height you hold A. The B button faces the camera down and the Y button faces the camera upwards. The L shoulder button is used to move left and the R shoulder button is used to move right. If you plug in a second control pad on the Sega Saturn, you can use the X and Y and Z button to change the scales. Although after changing the numbers quite a bit, I can't see any effects being had on the test level. The test level is good though, because the black draw distance is removed, so you can see the graphics being drawn in the distance in front of you, and also the colour being added to the terrain as you move forward. And by gaining height you can really get a good sense of what the draw distance is like on the game. Now the test level is a large area and there may be plenty of more discoveries to find in this area. The problem is that it does tend to crash quite a lot when you're in this mode, so it does stop you exploring quite a bit. The next mode is the joystick configuration. Now when you click on this mode you would expect to go to the menu and be able to change the controls, but it just sends you to a black screen. The game hasn't crashed though, as if you press the start button you return to the main menu. I can reveal that this is indeed a secret menu here. I know this because, despite being a black screen, if you press a few buttons then return to the main menu by pressing start and start the game, the controls have changed. Furthermore, I suspect that you can also turn on game effects from this area, because after mashing the buttons a little bit and starting the game, I got a very big surprise and was really impressed with seeing this effect in the game. When this effect is on, every time you fire a weapon you get this great flashing multicoloured effect on your speed bike or mech. It really does look spectacular. It's not just you either. If the enemies or the bunkers fire their weapon or they're hit, they also flash multicoloured too. If you combine this with the static camera trick, you can really see the effect of the lighting on the model in all its glory. Now at the time of doing this, I'm still testing to find out exactly what buttons you can press to get this to work, and I'll update the description when I've got them exact. Number 1 on the list is all around the world. If you go to the edge of the level walls, even with jumping with the speed bike you can't get over them. However, if you turn into the mech, you can scale the wall just simply by walking up it. This allows you to be in a barren flat landed area. The scale of this area is absolutely massive. If you go in the opposite direction and I turn back into the speed bike just because it's quicker, then you can actually go all the way around the world and appear at the opposite side of the level. Now it takes around 2 minutes 15 seconds to do this, so I'll speed up the video. This is an effect that was used on games such as Panzer Dragoon Saga, so when you get to the end of the game map, you reappear at the opposite side of the map. Gives the levels a sense of scale rather than hitting a brick wall out of nowhere. Sometimes though, when you're doing this, it doesn't always happen, but sometimes you do hit some sort of invisible brick wall. Now all you need to do to get past it is just turn into the mech and take a couple of steps forward, and then you can go back into the speed bike. You can see on the radar map in the top right hand corner, we've left the map at the end of the level, and now despite going in the opposite direction, we're back at the start of the level. It isn't the same level, and the levels actually changed because similar to when we paused the game earlier, only the terrain was visible. The map no longer has any enemies, buildings or small trees, and the large trees are just tree trunks with no leaves. The level is now completely barren. As I said earlier, when you're on the normal map, there's only enemies being implemented in the first half of the level. And also when you kill all them enemies, no more enemies spawn back in. So let's go back to the normal map. Now as I said, the area above the map is massive, but I have noticed a couple of areas, especially close to the map, where you can see if you climb up, you can actually find little pockets that you can drop into, and this one's quite interesting. There's quite a few of them, and you just drop into them. You can't actually get out with the speed bike, you have to use the mech to climb the wall. Now I presume these must have been some sort of test areas for things. Now this one's quite close to the map, but when we move on to the next one, there's a little weird effect that gives it like a whirlwind, you will see now. So we'll just climb the wall, and here it is, and watch the little effect. If you just drop in and just watch them whirlwind around, just swirls around in this one. Now these two are very close to the map, as you can see if you look in the top right, but there's actually two that are pretty far away from the map. You'd have to move quite far out, so it makes me think that there might be other ones further around, because I've only been able to discover so much because it's so big up here in the flat barren bit once you get out of the level. But this one, as you can see, it is quite far away, and you drop in and it just looks like they might have been testing, so there could actually be other ones, and you never know, there might even be, you know, tests for other enemies in them or anything. So I really recommend, if you're going to download this game, to just test out and just explore as much as you can, see what you can find. And if you can find anything that I haven't found, leave it in the comments below. I'll be made up to hear about them. Again, this next one, this is probably the furthest out, and it's probably the biggest of the ones I've found so far in the game. But I would imagine there's other ones around. As I said, it takes a good 2 minutes 15 to move right round the map, and that's just in one direction straight, so it's really difficult to say just how many of these there are. These are the ones I've discovered in the short time I've had to play the game, but I'm going to continue playing the game, and if I find any more, I'll either do an update video or I'll update the description to tell you about them. This game is being reported as being developed by Sega of America before being dropped. If you want to find out more information about the game's story, artwork and download the demo, head over to the excellent Sega Saturn Collectors and Gamers Facebook page. You've been watching Retro Dad and Modern Lad, the YouTube channel and soon to be website. If you've liked this video, give it a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We've got loads of videos, mainly on Sega Saturn, but also with a hint of Dreamcast and other Sega computers. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon. Bye!